Hey everyone, welcome to another installment of The Way It Is. And I'm your host, Luca with Remax Service First Realty here in Kingston. And today, we're going to start the chapter one, I think, or at least episode one of what hopes to be our little foray into the political world. This podcast hasn't been overly political, if at all, but obviously with a pending provincial election and signs popping up on people's lawns, it seemed appropriate that we start. And we're fortunate to have with us Zachary Typhair. Zachary is the candidate for the Green Party here in Kingston and the Islands. And just a little brief description or self-written brief description about Zachary is he's the first Gen Z candidate in Kingston. His experiences on the front lines as a minimum wage worker during the pandemic have reinforced his view that his generation needs to be heard. Not only are the youth of Ontario faced with the perils of climate change, but they must also contend with the tremendous inequity growing between the haves and the have-nots. Zachary hopes his candidacy acts as a call to all young people to seek a better future for Ontario, a future he believes is best served by rebranding as Generation Green. Welcome, Zachary.
Thank you.
All right. And I was on your site and read more in-depthly about your history and your background growing up here in Kingston. It's quite a story. Tell us a little bit about that. And obviously you're only 21 years old, so young by certainly my standards. My children are older than you, for goodness sakes. And obviously you developed an interest in politics at a uber young age.
Yeah, I think it comes from, well, for the first half of my life, I was raised from my mother, who was a single mother, and put me and my two brothers through school and put a roof over our head. She always picked up the midnight shift, and I was a horrible kid, as I always say. So I became more grateful, as we do when we become older and we see the sacrifice. For the second half of my life, I was raised from my grandparents, who are small business owners in Kingston. So I really got to see the affordability crisis affecting two demographics there, how there's affecting small business owners and single parents, I should say. So I became deeply passionate with politics because I wanted to help people, and I seen the best way to help people was to get involved in politics. And the funny story with that is nobody from my family ever voted until 2018, which was the first time I was able to vote. So my passion kind of rubbed off on them, and I'm hoping that I can do it to non-voters this election.
So I guess why gravitate towards the Green versus, obviously the mainstay parties that we have come to know,
I think it goes back down to voting records. The Green Party has three things that I am always drawn to. One, we don't whip votes, so I can vote on my own, which is why I have many policies in my local platform that are not in any other party's policies. For example, I'm the only candidate with a senior strategy, not taxing local craft beer, and the only candidate in most of Canada that's even started to talk about implementing a coverage plan for transgenders and non-binary surgery. So it allows me to be who I am. And that's what I think we need. We need more politicians that can be themselves and bring more passion instead of being a backbencher party. And the third reason is that they have the better voting record when it comes to climate change. We're the only party that still has not voted for a pipeline. We're still the only party that has not made cuts to healthcare or affordable housing. Granted, we haven't been elected until on PEI, so we haven't had much chances to do that. But voting record always goes back down to it. And it's why I think other parties need to have a chance in the House because, well, the status quo just haven't got the job done.
No, fair enough, for sure. Provincially, Mike Schreiner, who's actually quite an intelligent guy, I think, and very well liked, and I think well thought of in the political forum. Certainly, that's brought the Green Party more top of mind. I think the world that we live in has helped to do that, sadly, and in an unintended consequence of the situations we're in. So talk a bit about, I guess, you alluded to some of your particular local platforms, but I guess maybe, and we know as much as we're voting local, it is still, we operate in the province. And I know a lot of people vote based on who they feel the federal or the provincial leader is going to be. So I guess what sets the Greens apart in Ontario, if you want to take it to that sort of level, the next level, if you wouldn't mind, sort of just.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Mike has shown what one MPP is capable of. And imagine what a Green caucus can do. We were the lead in charge on not building the highways. We've been the lead in charge on climate change, mental health, affordable housing. I am so proud to be behind the only party that's calling to implement healthcare under OHIP. And Mike has taken a strong stance on mental health. And to me, Mike has just stood up in the House at Queen's Park and just showed what one MPP can do. And I think when I think about politicians, I want to say, hey, my MPP did a lot. And I think Mike has proven once again that one MPP can get a lot done. And to me, we have the best housing plan. We are going to build 100,000 affordable rental units and maintain affordable housing supply. No. We're going to launch a transformative 5 billion green building program for the next 10 years. And, we always get told we don't have enough money to do a lot of these things. We're spending $10 billion on a highway that's going to save 30 to 60 seconds. That's going to cut into our farmland, our green belt. It makes no sense. So I would like to take that and use 5 billion of it and launch our transformative 5 billion green plan. And we need to, Mike has taken such a strong stance on economic homeless. And that's why I'm proud to be with a party that's going to build 60,000 supportive housing units with wraparound service. The idea is that to end poverty, you need to give a foundation.
I don't disagree with you. I mean, I've got my own feelings and opinions on how to solve some of these crises we're dealing with. I get very frustrated when it's when the politicians of the world, provincially, federally, pay lip service to headlines or and just give talking points as opposed to substance. But I guess, how do you reconcile, though, today, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot or anything like that, but I'm sure constituents are going to ask you, how do you reconcile carbon taxes with the price of filling up a tank of gas these days at the gas station? And we're talking constituents that have means and those that don't have means, right? I mean, speak to that if you can.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as Greens, we typically don't like using oil. And you know what? I understand people's fears that if the Green government gets elected, we're going to just increase the supply chain. No, we're going to put a cap, so then you can't make a whole bunch of money off oil. That's the problem. Oil we don't import a lot of oil from Russia and or Ukraine, and yet our prices are still going up. It's because oil companies are capitalizing on it and said, oh, well, now we have to. Well, they're making profits and Ontarians are paying the price. So we're going to put a cap on it and also start investing into electric cars, or in what I would personally like to invest into is Canada's company called Aero Electronics, which is trying to invent the world's first net zero car. If they can manage to do that, we'll be the global economic powerhouse in automobiles if we can create that vehicle. And they're getting close to it. And with a bit more government funding, they could. Imagine that. Imagine Ontario being the province that brings in the first net zero car. The economy is going to bloom. The investment by 2050, the global green economy investment will be up to $8 trillion. We have to capitalize on that. But for now, getting the supply chain to electric cars for people, because it is cheaper already. It's just not cheaper to buy the vehicle. So put in more funds in and more rebates. So then when you buy electric cars, it's cheaper and you get money back as well. And having electric charge systems all over, at least starting with one at every gas station would be a good start.
Yeah, and I mean, and there's a debate, of course, and you alluded to it, and then that's a great hopefully that'll be a fantastic success story to have a company out of Ontario develop the first net zero car, because there's the rub. EVs are certainly hard on the environment to produce, like no different than a carbon emitting vehicle. I mean, the metal's the metal, the plants are the plants, and then you got the batteries that at the end of the day to figure out what to do with once their lifespan is over. But going back though, so Kingston. Kingston, I've had Mayor Patterson on a couple of times, and I know Kingston, I think, tries to be sort of at the lead of, or the forefront of, environmental sustainability. What's your opinion on how Kingston is vis-a-vis being green or sustainable?
I think when we compare ourselves to other municipalities across the country, we're doing good, but we're not doing good enough. The hard, cold fact is that we didn't listen to the scientists for decades, and now we're paying the price. This is going to be the hottest summer, and next year is going to be even hotter, and the year after is going to be hotter. I don't think any party is hard enough on it. We need to be net zero by 2035. Scientists are telling us that. We ignored them. We can't ignore them anymore. We're now playing with my generation and the next generation's future. And I don't gamble with my future. In fact, I don't gamble at all. I'm a Leaf fan. I'm a Hort. It's not going to go anywhere with that. And I think when it comes down to it, we need to stop asking ourselves what's politically possible and what needs to happen. I don't care for re-election. No politician should care for re-election. You should get re-elected automatically if you do the right job, if you do your job right. So while they're talking about net zero by 2040, 2050, the affordability crisis, healthcare crisis, these are crises that were crises before I was even born. Why am I running on issues that are crises that are older than me? That's horrible. And we need a new generation of leaders to step up, because obviously the old leaders are not getting it done. And as Ford always says, it's time to get it done. Climate change really needs to get it done. And we can't afford to wait for another 8 years for action on this.
No, you know what? And I think most reasonably educated and thinking people don't disagree that climate, and I think even those naysayers, well, I mean, there's always going to be a percentage that are just, out of touch. But I think most people have come to realize that climate change is a thing, right? That obviously, here in our own little area here, we've gone from furnaces didn't shut off till a week ago to now we're wearing shorts and t-shirts and it's 28 degrees, and there's no more shoulder seasons. It's winter and then it's summer, right? And that's certainly, for anybody who's paying attention, that's not normally a cycle of seasons, right? So, but it always comes back to how do you pay for this, right? Everybody knows what needs to be done. Everybody knows what has to be done. Are people prepared to make the sacrifices financially vis-a-vis one has to presume you've got to generate tax dollars, you've got to generate revenues to pay for these initiatives, right? Whether it's 100,000 homes, whether it's more EVs, whether it's all of that. Where does that come from?
Yeah, well, absolutely. But it's always a fear. I mean, yeah, we're going to take a hit at first. It's an investment, not an expense. For example, the Green Party wants to retrofit our housing, and how we're going to. We have on our policy. We're going to get homeowners can receive a grant up to $15,000 to $20,000 to cover green retrofits like heat pumps and improve installation for housing with income under 100,000 will have a grant that's up to 100K. Our plan will also put $2 billion to retrofit nonprofit and co-op housing. See, we just said a whole bunch of money there, but those retrofitting programs will create 52,000 jobs per year. Green jobs will bring in more money into the local economy because they pay better, they're healthier, and above all else, they're investing into the global green economy, which is where the world's shaping to. We had a bloom after World War after World War II and World War I because we got into the industrial age. We started investing in the auto and gas and oil and coal. The problem is times change, And what we realized back then is that you have to invest in when times change. And we're not doing that right now. In fact, oil companies understand this. They are the leading companies that are investing into green technology because they don't want to be left behind. And if Ontario wants to be left behind, you keep oil subsidies and you keep paying for these big oil companies that are going to use those subsidies to fund into green energy ideas so then they can get money out of it, which is smart, right? And foolish
Yeah,
for us not understanding that that's what we're not doing ourselves.
sure. There's, and I'm sure the jobs will come. One of the issues the world is facing now, post-COVID or coming out of COVID, along with these supply chain issues, is a huge labor shortage or a labor crisis, and I guess potentially unqualified skilled labor or not enough skilled labor. That's your generation. I haven't read through the platform in its entirety, but where's the piece in terms of education, in terms of, because the world needs skilled trade people now. I mean, that's you can see it in the construction. You're not going to be building any of these homes and having any of these retrofits done if you can't get construction workers or you can't get workers that to do the job. And I guess that also, you can tie that into your living wage platform, because I think that's something that's an initiative for you as well. So
yeah. So I'm going to take it on to trades and then move on to the second part of that question, because trades is such a big thing right now. It's actually why we have a lot of immigrants come in and we really invest into them to take on trade jobs. What I've seen from my generation is that we were told from a very early age is that you have to get a good education to work a good office job that will give good paying job. And the problem with that is that our parents always thought, listen, I broke my back. My grandfather broke my back. And now that we have money to give you to try to get you going, go grab an office job so you're not breaking your body. The problem with that is that they got paid shitty wages.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to break their back for bad wages and bad health benefits. So a living wage where everybody's like, well, everything else just goes up. Yeah, because everything else goes up because we allow them to. What we need to do is make a CEO cap. So they can't make 20 times more than their lowest earning employee. And then reinvest into trades. For example, the Green Party has already put policies to try to eliminate tuition fees. We didn't make the empty promise to do it in 4 years. That's just not possible. But we want to tie it to income so then people can get ahead. I currently work at McDonald's for a few years. And during the pandemic, I watched, maybe I shouldn't say my job, but I watched many of my coworkers work 2 to 3 jobs and still go to school. So they're working lots of part-time jobs, trying to get an education, putting themselves farther in debt. And then their mental health takes a hit and you just can't get ahead. So trades is really good. And I think you need to have paid apprenticeships. One thing that high schools are starting to do, and colleges do it a lot too now, is co-op. And they'll get paid and they'll get their credits. I think putting them into put in a mandatory course in high school for co-op into trades to try and push people into trades would be a great start. And I think that's the way to go, is that trades is good if they do pay really good money, most of them already. It's just, we have to get over the stigma now that we break our body for it. Well, yeah, you're breaking your body.
Yeah, and then I know I don't disagree. Yeah, there are some skills or some trades that are it's hard labor. There's no question about it. I think also too, and you just touched on it briefly, there was a stigma or perception that, and because there's a whole generation, my children included, that felt that they had to go to post-secondary education. They had to, like, as you alluded to, they had to get a university degree or a degree of some sort in order to feel like they've achieved something, in order to climb the ladder, so to speak. And I think the unfortunate part is that having a trade or a skill sort of was treated as a bit of a step below, or that you hadn't achieved something. And yet, I mean, I know lots of electricians and plumbers and drywallers and people like that they're very successful entrepreneurs, and many of them in the city of Kingston. You just have to look at the trucks driving around town all the time. But
Absolutely.
But I think, your generation certainly is key. And I'm finding that there's, I don't know. And I don't want to sound like the grumpy old man that walked uphill both ways to go to school back in the day or anything like that. But there certainly seems to be, we've created a bit of a generation maybe that I dare say doesn't have the work ethic that your grandparents had or your mother had or my parents had as immigrants to this country, and worked 5 jobs and raised 4 kids and couldn't speak the language. So what's your, you're in that demographic, you're appealing to your constituents in that demographic. What are you hearing from them? Are they all like-minded like you? Because I'm sure others have different socioeconomic backgrounds.
Oh, absolutely. I wish they were all like-minded like me. No, I don't. No, I don't. That'd be horrible. I do. There is that perception that my generation's lazy, and I don't understand it, because the difference from our generation and from the previous ones is inflation has killed us. Like, nobody wants full-time jobs because they have to pay benefits. So you're working 2 to 3 jobs with no benefits. You're still making barely any money, and you're still falling behind. And yeah, it was the stigma that our parents created around odd jobs that were in the trades. See, my grandparents are small business owners, so I learned to love the trades. I didn't get involved in trades. I wanted to be a business marketer. But I do understand the importance of it. And there's a lot of things that my generation do not understand. And I think we have to redesign our high school. And we took out... I always butcher trying to remember the name, but maybe you can help me. You guys had, is it home ec?
Well, there was home economics. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there was you had shop, you had automotive, you had home ec, and back then, I mean, you got to be careful now because to be politically correct, I mean, they were for any gender, but I mean, invariably back in the day, girls did the home ec and the guys did the wood shop or the automotive, which I think today you could probably flip that script, right, in terms of who's taking what, and there's no gender bias in either one anymore. Yeah. So.
Yeah, well, I would like to bring back 3 courses and make them mandatory. I know I might get a little flack for this, especially as a fat kid, but phys ed, drama, and geography being high school mandatories made no sense to me. They should have been electives, and what you should replace those 3 with is home ec, workshop, and tax class and economics, world economics. You could learn how to do your taxes, budgeting, and stuff like that, and just teaching kids that these are the different things and teaching them life skills, which is what high school is supposed to be. College and universities are meant to be the ones that teach you whatever field you choose to go into. And yeah, to me, it boggles my mind that we have a mandatory history class, geography class, after we've already spent 8 years learning about that from grade 1 to grade 8. You've already learned all that. I didn't learn anything new in those classes by grade 9. It's just the same thing, worded differently in a different book.
I don't disagree with you. I think life skills certainly should be, whatever you would want to call it, that's certainly lacking. I mean, I see that in some of the student population, in terms of, I run a property management company. So I certainly see it in terms of, the entitlement and the privilege and what comes with that. When these kids are put into houses here and don't know how to live on their own because they've never done that before. And that's not a slight. It's just, it's a matter of fact statement. And you're right. So having life skills. I also, again, I was a product of grade 13 and, when they got rid of it, I thought that was a mistake. Personally, that's just me. I think that the kids coming out now, they're still just too young in terms of that extra year. I mean, most of them now are doing what they call the victory lap anyway, because they're not ready in terms of knowing what field or stream they want to get into. I mean, we're getting way off topic, but I mean, I have an issue with this whole stream thing anyway. By the time you start grade 9, you already got to start making decisions, or you're going to be left out of a particular area because you didn't choose the right stream or the right direction. And I just find that incredulous. I don't understand how we're trying to restrict education or prohibit people from doing what they want to do once they figure it out, right? But
yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, I won't keep you. I know you've got another speaking engagement or something else to get to, but I guess maybe we'll just end it on. Is there? I haven't followed. Embarrassingly, I don't follow too closely on the local scene. But have you had a debate yet? Are there debates coming? What's the plan for that?
I think we've had 4 debates already, and I know we have 3 next week. I can, on the top of my head, I can count 4 right now. 4 more coming. And next week is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then there's one on the 26th.
Wow. Okay, so it's active then. So, and where are these debates? Where have they been held? Are they sort of more town hall sort of formats, or are you?
They've been a little bit of mix. So, the Wolf Island debate was the first one that was held in April. That was Q&A. There was May 2nd. There was a basic income debate, and that was an actual debate format. And then we had another debate yesterday that was on Zoom that was more of a set questions, and then we answered them.
All right.
So it's a little bit of mix of everything, which is good.
Yeah. So how do you feel you're doing?
Honestly, the campaign is going a lot better than what we were anticipating. We've fundraised a lot more. One thing that I am finding that is so unique to our campaign is it was under the high recommendation not to do this, is I use my personal phone number. So I get people that will call thinking they're getting the campaign office, and they go, hello. And I go, Zachary speaking. And they go, who? And I love it because it's just such a respectful conversation. And the reason why I did it was politicians talk too much and they don't listen enough. And it's not going to be my campaign staff that gets voted in if I win. It's going to be me. So who's better to hear your issues than me?
Fair enough. Good point. Absolutely. So, all right. Well, listen, we'll end it at that. I appreciate you taking the time. I wish you all the best and good luck in the campaign. And yeah, we'll see what transpires. So I hope you get to convert and get some votes your way. So
thank you.
All right. You take care, Zachary.
You too. Thank you for having me.
Bye-bye.